But tell me more about the story in 2017.
So I have been for more than 15 years specialized in documenting refugee crisis and migration around the world. And in 2015, you had millions of people making their ways from conflict zone into Europe. So that was part of my long-term project. In 15, started in Greece, and I continued and continued. So in 17, Europe shut down its border, closed it. So most of the people who were in Serbia got stranded, got stuck. And as I mentioned earlier, it was freezing, it was cold. I wanted to come and see these conditions in my eyes. Behind Belgrade central stations, there was a number of unaccompanied refugee minors taking refuge in abandoned warehouses.
When you say minors, how old were they?
I saw 8 years old, I saw 9, I saw 12, I met 15, I met up to 16.
Traveling alone? From where?
All the way from Afghanistan, from Pakistan.
It's thousands of kilometers.
It's just unbelievable. And then for me to be able to understand more, I had to spend a lot of times around these children in the warehouses here, just to be able to gain their trust and understand why. And what was shocking for me, that most of these kids were saying, if we stay, we die. If we come here, we have a chance to survive and grow up and have a life. And that's something I needed to explain to the world. I needed to tell them that nobody leaves their home unless they are forced to leave their home. And these are kids who became adults because of the experience. Many of them had life and death experience just to reach the doorsteps of Europe, just to be here. And then they were faced with this very harsh condition that not a single human can accept or can survive in this. It was cold, Galib. It was over minus 20 degrees. And you know how it gets cold in this region. And most of these people come from hot climates, you know. And I saw them showering in freezing water outdoor. The snow is all over the place, sleeping on the ground, gathering around fires, but the toxic of the smoke of these fires could kill you. So that was very, very unbelievable situation or condition that you cannot imagine, and nothing like a picture can tell that. So for me, it was important to document that story, to raise their voice and explain to the world, like, it's not just number, you have millions of refugees. No. There were kids who had name. I remember a very particular story that shocked me. It's a young boy. His name was Saddam. He's 12 years old. I met him in the border between Serbia and Croatia. And I told him, when was the last time you spoke to your mom? He said, I didn't speak to her for a long, long time. I said, here is a phone call. He said, I lost the phone number. I don't know how to call my family. And that was for me kind of shocking. Like, this kid, his family doesn't know what's happened to him, and he cannot tell his family where he is or if he's alive. That was one story. Another story was of two hearing impaired boys. One was 14, one was 15. They're completely disconnected from the world. They cannot hear. And they were trying to cross the border from Serbia to Croatia, and they were shot at because they could not hear the border police telling them to turn back. So these were like the stories.
How old were they?
One 14 and one 16.
Mm-hmm. Where are they from?
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, okay.
So you can imagine the frustration for you as a human being and as a visual storyteller, that you want to share these stories. You want to tell the world, like, this is what's happening. And this is why these kids left, because literally most of them were answering me, I stay, I die, I leave, I have a chance to survive and grow up. I spent most of that year in Serbia. I spent several months in the warehouses, because after these warehouses and abandoned train carriages were destroyed and most of these kids were taken to camps. And I was happy to visit these camps and see how they transformed Immediately you see a bit of colors in their faces because they were taken into a better circumstances than the one they were in. The story was published in the magazine. I had a lot of reactions from people around the world about it. People started to understand more about that it's not our problem. So it's not our business. Then people started to understand. Today it's them, tomorrow might be us. And that's why I document these stories, just to remind people.
It was a very peculiar time, especially for those refugees, because they traveled, now we know it's usual routes where they travel throughout history. It's always the same routes. But yesterday it was us. You say today is them, tomorrow may be us. But for us, yesterday it was us, because not so long ago we were refugees during the Yugoslavian war. So with that experience, we were one of the few countries that actually treated refugees differently throughout this crisis, because we've seen the practices on the pushback practices on the borders. We've seen the way. Now, as we call them, Fortress Europe, behaved during the time. But which places throughout this route you followed with these kids?
So
you've been only in Serbia. You've been in other countries too.
So for me, there is no better way to tell a story than being a part of it. Actually, my journey started from the Greek island of Lesbos.
Okay,
I landed there, and I wanted to live that experience to be able to document it. So I walked with families from Greece all over to Germany, for example. All the way the journey to be able to live it. I could not live it exactly as they do, as sometimes I had to go through the official border while they go through different channels. But this is how my first interaction came to Serbia a couple of years after, because the routes kept changing, you see. And that was in the middle, 2 years after, when Europe said everybody's welcome, and then everybody started coming to Europe. And then suddenly, out of the blue, Europe says, you're not welcome. So the borders were shut. And these groups of young refugees got stuck here. And what's going to happen? These people, there was no parents. So somebody had to take responsibility for them. They needed guardians to take care of them and put them in safe, because during such crisis, a lot of horrible things happens. People goes missing, people, die in the way, people, you can imagine what happens. So it's kind of a responsibility was for me to continue. The sad things about nowadays, like a massive story happens, everybody jumps in to document it, and then another story happens somewhere else, so everybody leaves, and the story remains. So this is where I come. When everybody leaves, I come to keep the story going, to keep shedding light, and to keep reminding the people that this is still happening. It needs our attention. It needs our help and support and recognition that there is an issue that needs to be discussed and need to be solved.
Okay, so do you know what happened to those boys?
Yes. I know, for example, the two young hearing impaired ended in Switzerland.
Okay.
Technology is an incredible thing.
They're hearing now? They can hear now?
I was approached by them on Facebook that we made it to Switzerland and they're safe hands. Layakat, one of the boys that I spent time around documenting his experience here, he also ended in France.
Nice.
And it's amazing how these kids managed after years to locate me through social media, which was another powerful tool for them to move and communicate.
What happened with this boy, Saddam?
I never managed to connect with. This boy was deeply traumatized. He was a lone wolf.
How old was he?
He was 12. He was actually taking shelter in the jungle, alone between all these trees. I remember seeing his small tent, sleeping bag. He was just wanted to leave no matter what it takes. And back then, the borders were really tight, and people were trying a lot of time to cross. Many get turned back badly.
Yeah, they call it game. Yeah,
exactly, the game.
Yeah,
I remember that term.
Yeah.